Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar titled Fall Cleanup, Empty the File Storage Room with Paperless Night Audit. My name is Brenna Santing, and I'll be moderating our webinar today. We're here to talk about the benefits of moving your critical documents and reports into the cloud for increased security and compliance. To walk you through this process, we have two of MDO's best, Jason Freed, our hospitality data evangelist, and Rory Samper, a solutions engineer. For 15 years, Jason has been learning and writing about the most innovative hoteliers looking to improve our industry. He shares hotel owner-operator success stories through data analysis and engaging content, uncovering profitability trends and building news around the numbers. And Rory has been in this role of solutions engineer for almost 10 years across a wide variety of industries and verticals, specifically in the field of SaaS solutions, helping clients to navigate their systems and processes to cloud applications such as MyDocs. With that, I am going to turn things over to Jason.
Thanks, Brenna. I've been, like Brenna said, writing about the hospitality technology industry for about 15 years and thought I knew a lot about the operations side of things. About 18 months ago, I started talking with the folks at MDO, kind of about what they did and asking about their solutions. And they told me about this night audit process where at the end of each night, hotels print, a bunch of hundreds of pages, put them in a manila envelope, put them in a box and store them in a closet somewhere. And, they've got this simple solution that moves that into the cloud and digitizes that process. And I said to myself, no way, that's really a thing. Still no way. And in 2020 at this time, hotels are still doing that. So fast forward, 18 months, I'm still talking to MDO and I ended up joining the team. And to be honest, I still didn't believe it. I still was a little bit skeptical that this was still a thing that happened. So I, created this Facebook post and said, hey, send me a picture of your night audit without any identifiable information, of course. And I want to see if this is really a thing. So, I got a handful of pictures and got, it ended up with over 30 comments of people saying, yes, we still do this. This is still a thing. In fact, we store them in our attic and we've got to go up and when we need to retrieve a file, we've got to go up in the attic and dust them off. And I thought it was pretty amazing that in 2022, this is still a thing. So as it turns out, there are various reasons that hotel companies are compelled and really required to keep an incredible amount of records about their daily business operations. We all know about the night audit pack, which includes your daily documents, transaction reports, financial reports for the P&L, tax reports, revenue reports, departure reports. I mean, all these can be hundreds of pages. And federal and state tax laws require hotels to keep these records on file, most of the time on location for various amounts of time. Recent regulation actually requires storage in multiple locations to avoid a single point of failure. Rory, what have you seen out in the market on this?
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Hi, everyone. Rory Samper, as Brennan introduced me. I think, like, case in point, like you mentioned, the single point of failure here. Recently we saw the hurricanes in Florida. Like, major disasters happen any point in time. Natural, it could be a fire in the building, could be a mouse eating through your documents, could be anything, right? And like in those situations, the last thing you're worried about is like, hey, I have to make sure I grab my reports from 2019. So having this type of cloud backup, getting your documentation into the cloud, automatically, can really give a lot of people a lot of ease of mind when it comes to situations like that.
That's awesome. And yeah, and I mean, having the records on hand is helpful, right? For example, if a guest calls a year later and they've got something, they want to dispute a charge, for example, the hotel needs to have access to verify those details. And at times you may need more than what's on the reservations report or on the folio report, which is what's typically stored in the PMS. So what are your options when it comes to digitizing the process? Well, the first option we saw on the earlier slide, right? You stick them in a box, and you stick them in an envelope, and you stick them in a back office somewhere. There are other options, but each come with their own set of challenges. Digital storage is popular. That can be a USB drive or cloud-based shared drive like SharePoint or Google Docs. And these are steps in the right direction, but they can create their own sets of challenges. You know, we've heard at MDO actually stories about employees accidentally leaving the USB drive at the coffee station and it goes missing for several hours or days. And obviously that's no good, opens up the opportunity for someone who's not meant to have access to that data to get it in their hands. Storing daily reports in Google Drive or SharePoint, obviously, like I said, step in the right direction. But we're all familiar with, you know, login issues when we're managing multiple accounts. And we're all familiar with that prompt, you know, are you sure you want to share with a contact outside of your organization? And we always click yes, and we probably shouldn't do that with this type of data, or we definitely shouldn't do that with this type of data. Lastly, these cloud drives really only act as like a storage unit, right? So the documents will sit in there with long periods of time with no action. And if you need those documents to go through approval processes and signature processes and ultimately delivered to a central location, there are more efficient tools available, correct, Rory?
Yeah, exactly that, Jason. I mean, I think everyone here is familiar with, you know, Google Drive and uploading a document, kind of forgetting where it was or, or putting it there. I mean, it is a good step in the right direction to be even backing up just to Google Drive, so you can have it later, easily share it. But it's still essentially a virtual file cabinet, right? I mean, I don't know about anyone here, but I never look at my file cabinet because it's going to take me half the day just to remember where I put something like 4 years ago. So it is a step in the right direction, but it's still not all the way there.
Yep. And at the end of the day, you know, what we're really trying to do is ensure the right employees within the organization, you know, on property and at headquarters have easy access to these documents, but at the same time, strictly restricted to outsiders. So this slide, I am hoping I don't get fired for. This is MDO CEO, my CEO, who I have a call with in about 90 minutes, and I hope he doesn't see this slide. But
Yeah,
this is Ali Malou.
Really quickly.
So this is Ali Malou, again, MDO CEO, and he has a super interesting story. I wanted to share it quickly with you guys. He's witnessed the hospitality industry's paper consumption problem, really from a unique perspective. So Ali started out as a delivery driver at his family's office products company in Canada, and he worked with his family's office company for a really long time, worked his way up and eventually was helped leading the organization. And he saw the paper making process in really all the energy and resources that go into it. His company was ordering truckloads of paper, 40 skids a week. And one of their verticals that they sold to was coincidentally hotels. He admits that he really had no idea what the hotels were doing with all the paper. And it turns out it was a lot of it was the night audit, right? So in I think it was around 2013, Ali told me, you know, he and his father, who sort of had the foresight to see that the office products industry, you know, was shrinking. And, you know, at the same time, companies were in the early stages of this digital transformation process. And, you know, at the same time wanted to be more sustainable. So, you know, Ali sort of and his father sort of disrupted their own business, right? And introduced a software model to sort of disrupt what they were doing previously by selling paper. You know, it was interesting. He told me his motivations for that were twofold. One, to sort of help people be more sustainable going forward, and then to help people transform their business with technology, which I thought was really, really fascinating.
Yeah, I love this slide, Jason. I don't know if I'm sure we have at least some fans of the show The Office, but this picture gives me heavy Dunder Mifflin vibes, right? Like working in the paper shop.
I think that's what it's like, right? So, you know, what we're talking about here is digital document management, which we really think is stage one of your hospitality data lifecycle. Down the road in coming webinars, I'm super excited to talk about stages 2 and stages 3, which involve, you know, extracting the data from these reports that we're storing, feeding it to the right departments within, oops, I'm on auto here, I think. Feeding that data into, getting it in front of the right departments who need to see it, right? And start making better business decisions based on that data. But really, moving data storage and management into the cloud is what we call the blocking and tackling. And there are a lot of benefits, right? It increases efficiencies. You can work smarter, not harder, as they say. It gets your documents in a more secure and compliant place. And lastly, but like probably most importantly, going paperless does have a measurable effect on the environment. Hotel companies today are prioritizing taking care of the planet by consuming fewer resources and avoiding toxic waste. And these things come up on RFPs a lot of times too. We're hearing when people book group business with you, they want to know what sustainability initiatives you've got in place. So on that, I got to show you guys something super cool that we launched yesterday. MDO launched a sustainability calculator and certification program. It's free. It's on our website. It's awesome. Go to mdo.io/sustainability. You can plug in your consumption numbers, as you can see on the left there, number of hotels, how many reams of paper you've got, and we'll give you an annual savings that you would incur with the paperless night audit process. You can apply for a certificate there, and we verify that. And if you meet the qualifications, we send you a badge. And we provide a landing page like you can see on the right here. One of our launch partners in the sustainability certification was McNeil Hotel Company. They've got 24 hotels based just outside of Memphis, Tennessee. And you can see that their impact on sustainability initiatives is great. They've been with us since 2021, and they've saved 270 trees, over 20 pounds of landfill waste, over 163 gallons of wastewater, and that all comes in that, from pulp to paper making process. All these numbers are based on, how many reams of paper you can get from one tree. As we all know, it takes about 100 years to grow a tree till it gets to a point where you can make paper with it. So all these numbers are legit and impactful. Yeah, so I'm not going to read you these numbers, but these are sort of in aggregate, average per year, the contribution that MDO customers make and that MDO collectively makes to sustainability initiatives. You'll see all of it, like I said, all of it comes from that tree and paper making process, which expends resources such as oil, water, air pollution, energy, and landfill. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Rory. Rory's going to walk you through how MDO's MyDocs digital management solution can help.
All right, thank you, Jason. Give me 1 second here. So speaking about, obviously from a conceptual standpoint about what organizing, automating, digitizing your night audit process looks like, it's obviously amazing from a green perspective, but also from a process and your own internal use perspective, right? It's great to talk about it conceptually, but luckily for us, we can show you a real life example in the form of MyDocs here. So as you can see my screen, we have the My Digital Office dashboard. So we just want to walk through a little bit of MyDocs, kind of show the high level, but mainly just to discuss the main components that we think we should be considering when moving from really any process into a digitized night audit process. And so the number one thing I think that we need to take into account is really automation and ease of use. Like the saying, no, if you build it, they will come. I could say just based on experience, and I'm sure everyone has a similar experience, that if you build a complicated process, it will not be used. So making it ease of use as far as login, organization, the user experience, but a lot of that has to do with the automation too. So bringing reports from your PMS, your POS, bringing it into a system like MyDocs with as little pain points as possible is really the key there. And so in MyDocs, for instance, we do this in a variety of ways, either through direct integrations with systems and APIs, email schedulers or report schedulers using SFTPs, or even just as kind of a catch-all, a universal upload portal. So somewhere you can drag and drop, zips and documents, and then assigning some indexes and attributes, which I'll cover next. So at the maximum, your Night Auditor is doing the exact same process as they're doing now in terms of uploading to a Google Drive in a worst case scenario, but you're also getting all the benefits of having a fully organized structure, which brings me to my next point. To show you an example, so this is actually our live environment, so live demo environment. So this is what the actual UI of MyDocs looks like. You can see here on top, so organizationally, right now it's if you have all your documents in a in a box in the storage room or in an unused room, you'll probably never actually look through it unless you absolutely have to, if you're going through an audit or something like that. But even on Google Drive, like I mentioned earlier, you can upload it there, but I can't remember what folder I put something into 4 years ago or however long it's been. So using things like indexes and attributes associated to each file you upload or each Night Audit pack that gets imported, I think is crucial. So using indexes or attributes, such as obviously what property it's associated to, the name of the given report, the time frame it was uploaded, specific date, if it has been, it's gone through a signature workflow, which I'll also mention here, and also just be able to search content. So within MyDocs, we have an OCR or optical character recognition, essentially going through and scanning the document to look for specific content. So if I'm looking across, I want to find a credit card receipt from Mary Jane that came in last month, but I don't know exactly what day it would be in or even necessarily what property it was associated to, I can search and scan all the documents. Obviously something that is not possible within within most of the file storage systems. And secondly, you'll kind of see down here as well, we have things like indexes. So those indexes are stored when the file is uploaded, but can also be modified. Our businesses aren't static, so our tech stacks need to be dynamic as well. But the ability to modify these indexes, to share content across, to make markups on content, to have a version control history, download content, upload content, delete, see in multiple views. These are all features that you obviously, again, don't get in a physical or in a Google Docs type scenario, Google Drive scenario. And we also have compliance and accountability. If I move over to our dashboard here, so having a system in place to upload your content into a MyDocs type solution to go into a Paperless Night Audit, it's great. But you also have to make sure that you're actually getting the files, right? That's everything's coming into into the system as you would expect. This is why the MyDocs solution has a compliance report built into it as well. So here we can see, for instance, what reports have come in, on what days, for which properties. This could be pretty configurable as well. But in addition to, we have a signature status workflow. So that's the compliance portion. So if every day I would like my my property owners or management group to be reviewing and signing off to make sure that they actually are looking at the compliance report or the Night Audit pack and signing off on it so that I know everything's good to go, you can also have that signed through MyDocs as well. So you're not just bringing documentation in and letting it sit there, but also using that to make sure that's being looked at. And finally, just want to say again, like a really important component and piece of this is security and stability. So obviously taking something that's a physical record and bringing it online is amazing. You have the backup of that content. You have easy access to it. You can use indexes to look for it, to easily search for content you're looking for, to download it. You have that backup from a SOX audit perspective or any type of audit perspective. But the flip side of that coin is security and stability. right? It doesn't do you any good if you can't get to it, or it doesn't do you any good if there's, privacy concerns. So if you're ever moving to this type of situation, make sure to ask the question. You don't have to with us because we do have all those compliances in place, but that you're using things like it's hosted on a AWS or similar type server that has all of those compliance and security regulations already in place to hold this type of documentation. And with that, I'll actually hand this over to Brenna so we can do a quick summary and answer any questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Rory and Jason, for a really informative presentation. I think our viewers should have a better understanding of why digital document management is the right approach moving forward. So let's get into some great questions that have come in over the past 20 minutes or so. If anybody in the audience still does have questions, feel free to drop those in the questions box so that we can answer those for you. First one we've got here is, how does my data get into my docs?
Yeah, I can take that one. Great question, Brenna, or whoever asked the question. I kind of alluded to this previously in the presentation, but each system kind of operates a little differently, right? So how your night audit is compiled in FOSSI versus OnQ, versus Micros, or data is coming in from Micros, can all be handled a bit differently in accordance to how that individual system is processed. So we obviously understand that from the MDO perspective. So we have a variety of different integration types. So there's that API where it's set up to directly grab information from that PMS database, or like an email scheduler, where the system is actually set up and has the capability to basically email us the report. We then ingest it and load it with those indexes and attributes I was mentioning. We also have again, I mentioned the universal upload portal. That's kind of a catch-all and fail-safe. Or even we have like RPA bots where we can set up and configure to kind of go in and create that report. So really it's kind of the nuts and bolts of it, which isn't super interesting unless you're into the tech side. But really the key there is that the data is coming in with as little and oftentimes no effort or no additional effort from the night auditor.
Awesome. Thanks, Rory. So I think kind of in tandem with that question, we have another one. Can you upload past documents from previous years that we have sitting in storage boxes in an office?
Yes, you absolutely can. So I think the key consideration there is the digitization of it. So if that data is still within your PMS, we can bring that in, no problem at all. If it's like literally just you only have the physical paper, it would have to be scanned, but then yeah, absolutely uploaded to my docs. So I mentioned that like we have those indexes that are applied each time the night pack comes over. You can set that to be upload it to assign that index to be September 1st, 1998, if you really wanted to. Then it'd be stored in the system that way for that date with any associated indexes. So yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So next question, I think kind of as a step 2, so once you have the data in my docs, how can you take action off of these documents that you've got living in this system now?
Yeah, another great question. So as my docs is really focusing on on the actual physical documentation, you may have noticed when I was sharing my screen of our demo environment, that's the actual, we're seeing the actual file as it stands, right? So looking at it as a document storage, but then you take a step further and you think, well, like if I have all this information from my PMS, my POS, my accounting, my labor system, like I have everything, like it'd be cool to be able to like know what's in there, right? So my doc specifically is storing the copies of those files, but then we also have within the MDO suite my perspective, which is really more of a BI platform. So we're taking those same data points, but we're bringing it into a dashboard, and that's not the focus of this webinar. So I'm sure we'll probably do something like that in the future to focus on the My Perspective platform. But it's really the goal of that is to bring in those data points, show them in BI type dashboard, reportable, repeatable way where you can make actual business decisions based on that, based on those data points.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that quickly, Rory. The cool thing, from my perspective, is you can do that with branded and independent hotels and across your entire portfolio, right? So you're able to roll up that data and really get a good glimpse of, how you've been performing in the past, and also forecast, how your revenue and top line and bottom line is forecasted to perform moving forward. And then you can use that data to start building your commercial strategy, right? All things that we're going to get to in webinar 2, 3, 4, 5. But I think we all agree that it starts with getting those reports and that data into the cloud and into the right shareable environment. So then you can move on to that extraction and analysis process.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is kind of the life. Sorry to cut you off, Jason. But that is kind of the life cycle that I think we see a lot of clients that we work with move from, like storing paper documents in a room to getting them online, to then moving on to the next step of, like, we actually want to be able to make decisions off of this information, right? Like, you're already pushing or pulling the data into the cloud. Like, let's look at it, right? It's like the old adage, what's tracked is managed. Be able to make, like Jason said, those strategic business decisions, really understand the pulse of your business, like on an actual day-to-day basis, without having to wait for reports, saving time that people take sending emails, clear out your own inbox. It's a huge advantage, and that's exactly the kind of life cycle we see.
Awesome, thank you both. Another good question here: is there a limitation to the size of the storage?
That's a really good question, actually. No, as far as one of the best parts of like a cloud-based solution is that it's essentially infinitely scalable, right? So we have not run into, we have worked with clients that have hundreds and hundreds of hotels and have not run into any type of situation where we need to increase that storage capacity. But even in a worst case scenario, it's really just adding more resources on a server. So no, there's no limitations. I would say the only potential concern is if you had like a 10 gigabyte file and you wanted to upload it, it might take a little longer than than a minute or two.
Okay, awesome. So how do different roles use this system? Another good question.
Yeah, so we actually come across that quite a bit. So we work with obviously many stakeholders for our clients, whether that be the ownership group, the corporate or hotel management group, but then also it's good for the general manager or on property people like your night auditors, general managers, or whomever to have access to these as well. But you don't always want to give access of everything to everyone, right? If we have 100 hotels that are sending these night audit reports into MyDocs, you don't necessarily want your night auditor of your single Hampton Inn to be able to go and see all those documents. So the user base within MyDocs can be fully configurable as far as what and who you want to see what. So having like your night auditor have access to upload those reports manually in the upload portal if need be, while giving your general manager of a property access to the night audit reports and the files that are coming in, but only for that property, versus your corporate or ownership group, you want to give access to the whole shebang. So we definitely have different users with different roles within the organization, all using MyDocs. It's just really about simplifying their view, and also obviously from a privacy and security standpoint, just making sure they have the right user configuration set up. But all something that we do during the initial onboarding process with each one of our clients.
I think that's an important question, and you answered it accurately, Rory. I mean, we're seeing, as I talk to hoteliers out there, we're seeing many of them move their operations into a central location, trying to take as much of the property level work or paperwork, back office work away from the property level as possible, so that hoteliers on staff can focus on guests and focus on the guest experience and improving the guest experience. So having the technology to centralize a lot of this data and these reports and serve them up to the corporate office or the regional office seems to be a critical part of the process.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, I think that's all we have for you guys today. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Rory.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, everyone. Talk soon.